Welcome back to the summit. Still with us, Dr. Sona Kazemi, Dr. Ori Goldberg, and Martin Himmel. Thank you very much for staying with us. Before we dive back into the conversation, let's take a quick listen to the latest remarks of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi.
Iran's Republican and Islamic foundations are constitutionally entrenched, but there are methods of implementing the constitution that can be flexible.
And let's kickstart with another quick fire round of 30 seconds each. We're seeing it in China. We're seeing it now perhaps in Iran too. Is this barrier of fear from the establishment being vanished? Martin Himmel, please take the lead.
I don't think the barrier of fear has completely been vanishing. I think it's quite there. People are scared to get arrested. They're scared to get shot. They're scared to face long jail sentences. But I feel that the protesters are now more emboldened, especially after they've seen the Iranian regime blink when it comes to the morality of police. And so I think that we're going to see more intensified demonstrations. I don't think it's going to be lessened. I think it's going to be more intensified, and that's going to have international repercussions as well.
Dr. Kazemi, your thoughts?
I think, again, about the morality police abolishment, I think that's like spreading misinformation and disinformation. I don't think it's happening. And even I just checked Etemad Online, one of the state news agencies that completely denied the rumors that the morality police is going to be abolished. So we just need to be very careful about spreading those things that sometimes just pop up in the media. I think people are not afraid. They are on the streets. They are getting killed. They are getting raped in the prisons. They are there. There is strikes going on across Bazaar and a bunch of other businesses. And this is a full-fledged war.
Just to stress, if it wasn't clear enough, we're not suggesting it is indeed happening, but the mere discussion over the morality police is something we believe is important enough to be discussed here on the show. Dr. Goldberg, your thoughts?
I don't think this has anything to do with the universal barrier of fear. I think what we're seeing in Iran is a remarkably Iranian event. I think what we're seeing in China is also very much Chinese. I don't for a second believe that it's completely impossible for the Chinese authorities to placate the Chinese who are now protesting. I don't think we should see this as a universal phenomenon, except, of course, for the fact that dictatorships have validation, have a date where their validation expires.
Right, and now please feel free to interact from this point onwards. And Dr. Kazemi, excuse me for being perhaps a bit blunt with or provocative with this next question. Tehran is accusing the West of meddling. Do they have a point? Are they that far-fetched?
I think that is indeed funny. What the West has done for the past 44 years is to be in bed with the Islamic Republic and flirt with it. As you know, the other Dr. Goldberg mentioned, I mean, signing deals and killing themselves to bring the mullahs to the table. So this is I can tell you that Islamic Republic has one opposition in the entire world, and that's the Iranian people. Everyone else in the world has been tolerating this regime until now. So the only war that actually exists is between the Iranian people and the regime. So these scenarios that it's the West meddling, it's just, it's a joke. And it's funny because, like I said, the West and also Russia and China have done nothing for the past 44 years but to actually tolerate this regime. This regime is a member of the UN, has a place on the status of women, which has been, a matter of jokes recently, and people have been trying to push the Islamic Republic out of that council, saying that, a regime that, treats women as second-class citizens doesn't have a place in this. So, no, I would say this is people resisting authoritarianism. This is people with their flesh and blood standing in front of a regime that knows nothing but execution and amputation and rape.
And speaking to that point of the West, Martin Himmel, Tehran reaching 60% uranium enrichment, the nuclear threat becoming more imminent. What's the impact on the attempts to restore the nuclear deal, the domestic situation that is, on the status of negotiations?
Well, I think the Iranians are trying to call the West's bluff, if it is a bluff, because President Biden and Israel have said Iran will not go nuclear. Well, you have an Iran nuclear once it reaches an enrichment level that it can create a bomb. It doesn't necessarily have to put the bomb together, but if it's got the fissile material, the essential fissile material, it can make a bomb anytime it wants. And it is either there or about to be there. So either the West is going to intervene in a very overt way, or the West is going to sit back and make an agreement that won't have any relevance because Iran will already be a nuclear power. What I did want to say before, though, is that I think the West may not be involved actively in the revolt. I'm sure it's involved passively with social media and social media intervention, like many countries are.
Yeah.
But it is watching very closely what's going on, because Iranian resolve will be affected by whatever happens on the streets of Iran. And I'm sure in Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, who have allied themselves with Israel to try to contain Iran, are going to watch it very closely. So will Washington, and definitely here in Jerusalem.
Dr. Goldberg, where or rather when is the line between a full-on revolution and protest? Is there any other way of this to end other than a complete regime reshuffle? And what's the alternative?
That's a really good question. Iranian revolutions usually operate at their own pace, march to their own drum, if you will. I don't think we have a real idea of how long this is going to take. It doesn't seem like the protesters are eager to make this a full-fledged coup. I actually don't think they're looking for a coup. I think that they're still building momentum. I'll be a little more shy, let's call it that, than Dr. Kazemi, and say that I think there are still sectors of Iranians who are not out in the streets. We're not the only opposition to the Islamic Republic. I think the Islamic Republic still enjoys some support, even if it is only because it is the dictatorship in power. I think the protesters are still working on making their coalition cohere. It's very clear to the young people who are leading it. I think it might be less clear to other people. And every day where the Islamic Republic falters, every time it flinches, helps the protesters. In that sense, time is on the protesters' side, which means that nobody has to be in any sort of active rush. I don't know whether this will end in the flight of the clerical leadership. I don't know if it will end in their stepping down. I have a hard time seeing it. I think what we'll see first is infighting inside the regime. I think we might see within a week to a month, we'll see senior regime figures siding, maybe not bluntly, but effectively with the protesters. I think that'll be a good sign that things are turning and that the momentum is fully with the protesters, and that the hardliner leadership of the Islamic Republic should be taking flight.
Dr. Kazemi, in the short time we have left, what is the end game for protesters here?
Well, it's really hard to predict. Like Dr. Goldberg said, it's a process, and every revolution, every social movement, any longing for change has its own process that it has to take. But there's one thing that we know is that a secular democratic Iran, and that's what the protesters want, a secular democratic Iran is not only an asset for its people, but it's also good for its neighbors, and it's also good for the world. So what we have here is just a state that is enemy of everyone, basically. Is an enemy of the environment, enemy of clean water, enemy of women, enemy of democracy, enemy of the world. So this regime, when it's dismantled, when it's overthrown, when it's gone to history where it belongs, then we are going to have freedom, woman life freedom, like protesters are chanting. Which is good for everybody. So I don't know why it should be in anybody's interest to keep this regime in place, and I think it's going to change.
Well,
definitely.
The ever-moving tectonic shifts here in the Middle East. Dr. Sona Kazemi, Martin Himmel, and Dr. Ori Goldberg, thank you very much for your time and insight. It has been a pleasure. Hopefully we'll see you back on the show soon. We're out.